I guess first impressions are, I'm not quite as impressed as I thought I would be. Although for the price point, I think that it is impressive. I haven't tried a lot of the lower end scanners, although I wouldn't really call this a low end scanner by any means. I mean, I think at the time of this review, without any discounts from Creality, that this retails, I think, around $5,500. I'll correct that, put it on the screen, whatever I see online. I got it, pre-ordered it a few weeks ago, and I think I got it for like $4,500. So I think for $4,500, it's certainly a good scanner. It's my first foray into doing or using a scanner with markers. That's kind of what sold me on the Artec system, and why a lot of people like it as well, is just it's straight photogrammetry based, or structured light based, and you don't need any of those markers. But you know, sometimes I've seen really high end stuff from other marker systems that are producing even better models, especially for trouble areas of Artec, like deep holes or draws. I did print out a couple of the models. This one was the Space Spiders model, and this one was the RaptorX. I'll give it to the kids as a test, I suppose, and I've still got some cleanup to do. But at the end of the day, they look very similar. Certainly for a kiddo or just a visual model or something like that, it's pretty much identical. Hard to tell which one's which. Although I would say the surface finish of the Space Spider is just a little bit better. And you see that in the STL as well, where it's just a smoother surface. And I didn't run any sort of smoothing algorithm or anything to the model afterwards. I left them as is. I didn't even use a smoothing brush and do any touch-up. So I wanted to print off the models just exactly as they were. Just because a lot of people want to see exactly what sort of model a 3D scanner is going to produce without any sort of touch-up, because they just don't know how, or they don't want to learn how, or what have you. You just want to see how quickly you can reproduce something. I would say, as far as learning curve, you're going to have, I still think I have a lot of things to learn about the Creality system. Is my first experience with it, and I think my experience with it will improve, and the models will improve. I've seen this a lot with the Chinese softwares and stuff, which I'm not going to knock it too badly because it's free, and that's the best part about the software, is you can put it on as many computers as you want and have that with you at your disposal at any time, which that's great. I mean, Artec system's great too, and the system performs really well, but you have to pay an annual maintenance fee for that, thousands of dollars a year, or a lifetime license where you don't get those yearly updates, but you're still looking at thousands of dollars for something like that. On top of a scanner that retails, I think at this time it's like $28,000 retail brand new for a Space Spider. If you're brave and comfortable with using or buying a used one on eBay, which I have before, you're rolling the dice, but eBay does a pretty good job of protecting buyers. Getting one for I've seen them anywhere from $12,000 to $16,000. I mean, yes, that's a huge investment, and you need to have some sort of business case or something for it to have that make sense. But with the RaptorX, you're also kind of approaching that where if you're going to drop $5,000 plus, you're certainly, after you buy markers and taxes and all that good stuff, you're going to be looking at $5,000, $6,000 for this system, and you have to have a good idea of what its capabilities are for that as well. If I was starting from scratch and I wanted to get in at as low a price barrier as possible, there's probably even cheaper things than the RaptorX that could really get the job done. The original Raptor, I haven't used it, but it seems like it's going to be a very similar system, just a little bit smaller field of view, etc. So I think you would save a few $1,000s there, $3,000 or so. to go to the lower end one. And I think that that would do really well for a lot of people. It all depends on your use case. So if you're going to be scanning little figures and toys and things like that, I think that there is a case to be made for these blue laser scanners. They seem very accurate. And if you're only looking at needing geometry, etc., I don't know how much footage I'll end up having of putting the color textures on there. And admittedly, I didn't do it with the Artec this time because most people just don't need the color information typically. And if you do need the color information, you need better color information than what either of these scanners are going to provide. You're going to want to take actual pictures with a decent camera and project all those textures on and do a better job that way. Which I'll definitely dive into a little bit more in future videos, I think. But as far as model comparison, I'll throw up a few more videos comparing the two models. So digitally, you can see overlaying them that they're very similar. There's two parts or 2 points that seem to be called out as the biggest differences. And most of those, I think, aren't even the scanner's fault. It's more of my fault for not capturing it completely. But just some areas here at the back fin that kind of, it seemed like the scanner probably missed that area, and so there's a little bit of a ballooning there for missing data. And then I remember one of the tire spokes, the deep area inside there had some missing data on one of them. But all in all, they both produced really great models. Certainly, my biggest feedback would just be that you get what you pay for. Unfortunately, still, with the Artec system, the software comparatively is just blazing fast. I scanned and produced the model with the Artec software so much more quickly, just because it's that the program seems to be able to process that data just faster on the same exact spec computer. And you can look online other people's reviews of Artec and other softwares, and I think that it's pretty much universally agreed that they have really great software that just kind of turns even a standard laptop into a great machine for it. Whereas with the Raptor, I really felt that even though one of the biggest things I was excited for with the RaptorX was that, here, I'll grab it. I was letting it charge up, but one of the things that I was most excited about was this handle here with the cell phone attachment, and that I would be able to, snap my cell phone on there and get a live view of what I was doing, kind of similar to the Artec Leo, where you have everything right there in front of you, which, I think that it's still possible, and I'll use it like that in the future where possible. But I think that it was so much of a pain in the butt for you to connect your cell phone to the wireless bridge, and then you used your cell phone to connect to the Wi-Fi of the wireless bridge, and then you also connected your laptop to the same Wi-Fi, and then you had to use your cell phone again to scan another QR code on the software to get it to just screen share, which was just a browser-based screen share that seemed to be a little bit laggy. And then you're still transferring all that data, so it kind of everything felt a little bit more sluggish. And so when you were capturing data, I wasn't quite sure whether or not data was showing up slowly on the phone because of my connection to either one of the systems, or if I just wasn't getting a good tracking on the markers. So I really couldn't trust it too much, at least for my initial review. So I went ahead and I connected it directly to the laptop with the provided cable, which worked really great. It was a really strong, well thought out cable, really long. So it would work really well for all of my desktop applications, which is always nicer to scan in your studio if possible. And if that was the case, I don't think that I would end up using the wireless option too much. But for larger items and cars and things that you really need to get around without wires, I'll definitely use more of this in the future, I think. I've gotten pretty good at, having a little trolley with me and carrying around a laptop and getting around a car just as well with the Artec system as well. But it would be nice, for the cost of a Leo, which is, I think, about $30,000, $32,000 now. And you rarely see a Leo come up used that's reliable from a reliable seller. I've never really had too much experience with the Leo yet, but this is pretty much the cheapest option that I've seen that gives you what approaches that experience of having everything in one spot, even if it is just your cell phone. So that alone is pretty impressive. And the models that it produced is for a scanner that's easily a quarter of the price of what this would end up running you. It does produce a very good model for the cost, and I would recommend it to anybody that wants to, approach this same level of scanning. But I bet you that there's a lot of other options that, are just ever so slightly less detailed, but thousands of dollars less. Once again, I would definitely be interested in the original Raptor as well. The only reason I went for this is because this is a wider field of view. Would probably be better for larger things like car fenders, things like that. I'm typically scanning larger items. But I love toys, and I want to do a lot more toy scanning. So I was hoping that this scanner would, on paper, it technically should scan even more detailed and higher resolution than the Space Spider, but I'm not seeing it in the models right now. I did use the recommended settings on the RaptorX, at least to what the initial setup prefers, and that was like setting it to the special, what do they call it, the ultra high resolution mode or whatever, where you could set it to the 0.1 that they recommend on 0.1 millimeters on resolution. And then Space Spider also, most of their frames are registering in at that same resolution. But the models that they produce just seem, it seemed like the Space Spider models, just everything came out sharper, smoother, without more of the post-processing. And once again, the software, just the processing times of, getting it just to a point cloud and then to mesh, etc., and merging those meshes or the point clouds before you mesh it on the Creality system. Everything just took quite a bit longer. And just all the tools in the Artec Studio were a lot better at processing that data in terms of selecting data that you wanted to remove and things like that. I think that there are still things that I need to learn about the Creality system and especially the software on how to optimize it. But I do think that at the end of the day, it just is going to take longer to process things. And it takes longer to prepare things too with the marker system. You have to put all these little dots on everything. And, I avoided putting the markers directly on the toys for this go around just because, I've seen a few videos of people doing it without the markers on the item, and I wanted to see how much I could, recycle and reuse these things. And the more that I look at it, there's a few ways that I can already improve. I'm starting on some of these markers that I've seen online. There's another guy on YouTube, I think his name is Payo. Love his videos. He has a lot of really good info out there on how to use these scanners. So it seems like I definitely need to have a few more of these markers set up at different angles. When you have them all flat on the table like I have them in this video, it seems like when you angle the scanner, it's pretty easy for it to lose tracking on these markers, which kind of surprised me. I'm new to the system. I don't know if it's different with the other higher end systems, but it does seem like the results get a lot better if you have a few more of the markers set up at different angles. So I'm definitely going to try more of that in the future, and I think the next thing that I'm going to scan, I'm definitely going to have some markers directly on the object as well, just to see how that goes. You know, for my purposes, so far I don't think that I've really expanded my capabilities too much with this scanner, unfortunately. But I do think that there's probably going to be some use cases for it in the future that I'm excited to try out too. Definitely more things like automotive covers, etc., these thin items. I'm interested in how they're going to perform. That's one of the things that are really difficult to capture with the RaptorX system, is getting around those flat parts or stamped out parts, and keeping the tracking throughout the scan session and merging the data sets afterwards for multiple scan sessions. So I think that there's still going to be some opportunity for this scanner to shine, and I'm going to keep on making some videos and show everybody, you know, if it's worth it or not. I think that for your average person, if you were going to buy any scanner today, I mean, I always advise people to, you know, kind of shop at the high end of their budget, especially for scanning, just because there's so many out there. It is becoming more and more accessible, but there is a real jump in performance that you get for spending a little bit more money. But once again, you know, once you get into paying, you know, multiple thousands of dollars for a piece of equipment, you want to have a case to where that thing's going to make you some money, or it's at least going to avoid you spending some money elsewhere. So I think that for like mechanics, etc., that are savvy enough to know how to work with 3D data and do some custom stuff, you know, this system would work really well for your shop to be able to get into it. Or if you're, you know, trying to replicate parts and 3D print them, and it's mostly industrial usage, I think that the system would be great. You know, it'd cover most of your uses. So for that price point for a small business, I think that, you know, if you've got somebody that's interested in it and capable enough to be able to, you know, produce some models, this scanner can produce very similar models to even, you know, the big boys. So, you know, if you're looking for something to get you into it, and not regret, like, oh, could I spend? You can't spend any more money than this. You would have to spend so much more money than this to get a minuscule amount of improvement, unless you just really needed that speed, where you were knocking out a lot of models and you just wanted things as quickly as possible and you were willing to spend the money for the speed. You know, by all means, you know, there's other options. But for the high-end hobbyist or a small business, I think that this is probably one of the best scanners that you can get right now for the money. But we'll see. You know, if it breaks tomorrow, I'll feel very differently about it. But I mean, initial review of the packaging, you kind of saw my my expressions, etc., on the state of the box as it arrived via FedEx for me. I do think that they probably should have added some more bubble wrap, etc., like around the you know, it was double. I mean, there's lots of packaging. There's 2 boxes, but I think in between the small box and the large box, there should be some buffer to where it's not rattling around inside that large box. But I mean, everything was immaculately packed, and it's in that Pelican case, so everything seems to be okay. So overall, pleased. It did take. I ordered this. I think I ordered this about mid-January, and they shipped in about 2.5 weeks. I mean, there weren't like, you know, a bunch of updates, but you know, what can you really expect? It's going to be ready when it's ready, and there were a lot of people, I think, in line that were excited about it. So I think you'll see more and more people online using this, and I want to show some other ways that you can utilize it. I'll try to find some way to share these models online, so see if there's some links in the description. I'm still trying to find the best way to share. And just let me know if there's any questions or ideas for future videos or questions or things that you saw me do wrong. I'm sure that there's lots of ways that I can improve as well. So happy scanning, and I hope that this video helps you decide whether or not the scanner's for you. I think it's for me. I'll keep it around for sure. It's not like I can send it back. But I think that, given some time, the software will get better. They have a whole lineup of scanners. If you got one of their lower end scanners, maybe there's ways to combine the data, etc., to expand your tool belt a little bit as well. So even if you have one of the smaller scanners or the lower budget scanners for the Creality lineup, I think that upgrading to the Raptor probably is a great idea as well. It all depends on what you need. Anyways, happy scanning. I'll see you in the next video.